The reappearance of the crocuses in the spring of 1943 meant that another year had passed, but Lisa was so absorbed in her new studies that she hardly had time to read the corner chalkboard, which was plastered with an encouraging headline like "Allies enter Naples and Kiev liberated." The Royal Academy of Music had proved as exciting as she had hoped and as demanding as she had anticipated. In the fall of 1942, her first year, she had been assigned a master teacher and was surprised when she opened the door to the studio to find that it was the same small lady who had been on the jury at the audition. Her name was Mabel Floyd, a teacher with a very distinguished reputation. That first year brought many other changes in Lisa's life. After a long struggle, Johnny had died, leaving a hole in the heart of the hostel. His internal injuries were more severe than any of them had known. She missed him terribly. To add to her loneliness, Aaron enlisted in the Auxiliary Military Pioneer Corps as a paratrooper. After seeing the look in his eyes as he watched the soldiers from the tower of Big Ben, Lisa knew his announcement should come as no surprise. On the night before he was to ship out, he came to the hostel, and Mrs. Cohen kindly lent them her room for a few private hours to say goodbye. When the evening was over, Lisa was crying so hard that she couldn't leave Mrs. Cohen's room for the final glimpse of Aaron going out the door. At first, she wrote him every day, then every week, but then she grew so busy that she wrote just once a fortnight. Aaron had done the same, as he was swept up in the life of a parachute division. In the beginning, his letters were detailed and enthusiastic, but after his first combat experience, they became more guarded. Lisa tried to read between the lines. What was it like? What had he seen? She didn't want to imagine. The summer of 1943 brought the glorious news that the Bastises finally agreed that it was safe enough to allow Sonia to come and visit with her older sister in London. When Lisa met Sonia at the train, she was surprised to see that Sonia was still thin and small from her 16 years. "Are you getting enough to eat out of the country?" she asked. "It's not like Mama's cooking, but don't worry, I'm trying to eat as much as I can." Lisa took Sonia to all her favorite spots in her new city. At Buckingham Palace, they strained for a glimpse of the princesses. When they walked past Big Ben, Lisa confided that she had been kissed on top of the bell tower. At night, Sonia cried out for her mother in her sleep and asked in the morning when Lisa thought they would see her parents and Rosie again. "I don't know," Lisa began, but seeing Sonia's mournful expression, she added, "I'm sure it will be soon." Despite the rough moments, it was a wonderful visit, and both sisters were distraught on Sunday afternoon when it was time to part once again. They vowed to keep writing often, especially if either heard any news of the family. Just a few weeks after Sonia's visit, Lisa got a short letter from Leo's cousin in Mexico. Letters from Austria had stopped completely. Lisa ripped open the letter and scanned it quickly for news. "Still haven't heard from Leo or Rosie, but we did get news that most of the Jews from Vienna have now been deported to detention camps in Poland. We have tried desperately to get word about our aunts and uncles there, but there are few ways to communicate from here in Mexico. Please write us if you hear anything at all." In panic, Lisa brought this letter to the Bloomsbury house, but neither they nor the Jewish Refugee Agency nor anyone else could answer their frantic appeals. All letters came back stamped undeliverable, and every attempt Lisa and the others at the hostel made to contact their parents was unsuccessful. By 1943, Platts & Sons was making military accessories, duffel bags, backpacks, mudguards, camouflage, all sewn from heavy green canvas. The work was harder than before, and Lisa's tired fingers began to feel the strain from the difficult, repetitive work. The centerpiece of her week was her lesson with Mabel Floyd. After faithfully practicing all that she had been assigned, she would appear enthusiastically at the master teacher's studio at 3:30 on Thursdays. No, Mrs. Floyd interrupted Lisa after just a few beats. "A trill is something light. Think of fairy dust and tinkling of little bells. This sounds like a parade of army boots. Lisa rubbed the painful muscles of her right forearm and began again. The same results. Is there something else you need to tell me, dear? The discerning teacher noticed the worry in her pupil's eyes. Lisa had been reluctant to talk about her factory job with Mrs. Floyd, but finally she described her arduous work. The teacher knew that she was a refugee, but hadn't known the details about the rigors of the assembly line. My, we'll have to do something about that, was her brisk response. Go home and get some rest. I'll see you next week. There will be no assignment. At the end of the next lesson, Mrs. Floyd handed Lisa a handwritten letter. Take this to Howard Hotel. The address is inside. They are looking for a pianist to entertain the soldiers. I believe the pay is reasonable and the work will be much more suitable. Lisa drew in her breath, a little gasp of delight. Oh, thank you, Mrs. Floyd. She floated several inches off the pavement all the way to the Howard Hotel, where she presented the letter to the manager, was shown the piano in the lounge, and was told she could begin the following week. The next day at the factory was difficult. Lisa dreaded goodbyes. Mr. Dimble said, We're sorry to lose you, but good luck in show business. Lisa laughed and thanked him with a kiss on the cheek that made the poor man blush. The farewell to Mrs. McCrae was the hardest. I'll be reading the newspapers, searching for your name, Lisa. I'll be reading the art section. Won't that set them a tittering? They hugged, and with no further ceremony, Lisa left the life of the factory behind.